you all, to everybody who found the time to tune in to a 10-minute session with our special guest, Kieran McGuigan. We've got one of these sessions every couple of weeks with different specialists, different experts in different industries. Our next session is going to be with Belinda Agnew, who's a LinkedIn influencer in the recruitment space. She's going to be talking about how to create a content strategy. It's loud, but it can create too much noise. So for this session, we've got the one, the only, the famous Kieran McGuigan, who's, for those who don't know, he's the founder of Strikeforce Sales, which is started 15 odd years ago. Author of, I was just saying to Anna, I travel constantly with my work, and there are not many books that I keep with me at all times. But this is one of the world's best sales tips by Kieran McGuigan. He's got endorsements from Brian Tracy and Jim Cathcart and Roger Dawson, all the heavy hitters. I think it's 10,000 copies or some along those lines. But Kieran's an expert at the one thing that all businesses need, new business. He's got a bunch of free resources on bettercallkieran.com and on his Strikeforce Sales website and all over the place. It's full of fantastic tidbits, tips, tricks, techniques for sales teams all over the world. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to have Kieran talk for a dense 10 minutes about some of his tips and tricks. People have some questions during the talk. Feel free to chime in, but ideally if you could put the questions into the chat, and we can talk about those one by one after the 10-minute showdown. So Kieran, I won't steal too much more thunder. I'll let you go for it.
Okay, thanks, Isaac. Thanks, everybody. It's really good to see some familiar faces there, and I have to say, albeit via the internet, everybody seems to be healthy and well and wise. So look, I've got about 10 minutes or so here, and what I really want to achieve here is just to refocus a number of things. I'm assuming that the fact that you're here is that you have some degree of awareness that you're either responsible for sales or you're going to be responsible for business development. But as we're sort of in this sort of mess that is COVID-19 / the recession that we're having at the moment, really there is not a better time to be in sales in this market. So you and the skills that you have or the skills that you're trying to build are incredibly important. I mean, if you stop now and asked any business owner anywhere pretty much in the world today, and you said to them, what's the most important thing in your business right now? Well, their answer should be, and if it isn't, it should be, their answer should be growing new business. And so if growing new business, finding new clients is the most important thing in your business, well, I suppose my question is, what is the first thing you do every day when you get into work, or when you log on, or whenever you start your working day? And I want to suggest as sales leaders in the marketplace that the first thing that we should do is new business. Not cups of coffee, not donuts, not chats about what was going on at the weekend or what you watched on Netflix last night. But the first thing that we should be doing is growing new business. So the question really becomes, well, how do we do that? Well, what is it that we need to do in terms of building good habits? We all have bad habits. I get that. I have bad habits. You have bad habits. But what is the number one thing that you should be thinking about or doing every single day before you have that coffee, before you sit down and look at emails and chat on Facebook or whatever it may be, and that is new business? So then we say, well, how do we do that? Well, that's actually probably easier than it seems. Well, the number one thing that unfortunately most salespeople don't actually do is speak to new prospective customers. So if you do nothing else from this short little session, when you get back into your office, I want you to get the biggest sheet of butcher's paper or a whiteboard or something like that, and every Monday morning I want you to write on that sheet a number. Let's say, for example, it's 5, Every Monday morning at 9 o'clock, you're going to write the number 5 or 4, whatever it may be. And that number that you're writing represents the number of new prospective conversations your business had last week. So think about that for a second. Most businesses, and I've spoken and trained thousands of businesses and salespeople around the world, and I have to tell you that most businesses, large and small, don't know what that number is. So if you do nothing else, if you don't do anything else, if you simply understand that last week, for instance, you spoke with 2 prospective customers, well, the writing literally will be on the wall, and the writing will be telling you, well, our job this week is to have 3 or 4 and increase that number. Because literally everything you do is about beginning that journey, that customer's journey, and that acquisition path. So if you've got 3, 2, so that everything, CRMs, databases, cold calling, email strategies, LinkedIn strategies, whatever it is you're doing, it all has to boil down to a number of conversations, not voicemails and not conversations you've had with people who are already in your pipeline that you're working on, that you called a couple of weeks ago, but net brand new first time conversations. Now they may not end well, but you want to know that number. So that's my first big tip, the huge thing. If you do nothing else, that will change the world that you operate on. Okay, the next thing is, let's start building a habit. Okay, and years ago when I first put this book together and I wrote it on the bus, I coined the phrase 10 before 10. And that was really about building the habit of making 10 prospective outbound phone calls each and every day. Now that's only 50 a week, right? You can send all the rest of the emails that you want to for the rest of the day. You can go to lunches and you can have meetings, etc. But if you make 10 outbound phone calls to prospective new customers each and every day, that's 50, okay, each week. Both of us know that you're not doing that, right? Okay, and that's only 10 a week. I don't even care if you don't speak to anybody, right? I really don't care if you just get voicemail, if you get people hanging up on you, if no one's there at all. The habit, it's a bit like getting up in the morning and going for a run. Just doing it once a month won't work, right? You've got to do it each and every day. So start building that habit. The night before you finish, just grab 10 numbers, 10, and start making those phone calls. Now, nobody does it. These days, I feel like a bit of a dinosaur talking about cold calling, and everybody's like, cold calling's dead, da, da, da. You know what? I don't think cold calling's dead. What's dead are people making those calls. Nobody wants to do it. And I get it, that I understand it's not fun being kicked in the head each and every day. But it's not about when you get rejected on a prospective phone call, they're not rejecting you. What they're rejecting is your technique. What they're rejecting is what you said or how you said it. So the next focus then becomes, once we build the habit of picking up the phone, speaking to receptionists, trying to find what we call the RPC, or the right person contact within that organization. When we get better at that and build a habit of doing that, sooner or later, I don't care if you make 50 calls a week, okay, just 50. I'm willing to bet that at least 2, maybe 3 of them turn out to be good. Now, 2 or 3, that's maybe what, 6, 7, 8 more prospective clients in your pipeline. Okay, and these days, having prospective clients in your pipeline is what it's all about. Too many businesses, whenever push comes to shove, and we move from the leafy, warm, summery suburbs into the cold, hard, dark winter, if I extend that metaphor, too many businesses, the first thing that they do is they're going to put pressure on your salespeople to close deals. Okay, when really what your effort should be about opening doors. As a prospective salesperson, as a new business development salesperson, your job is to go out and find those new clients and do it in an intelligent way. Okay, so that's my next tip. Build the habit, get good at it. Only do it, don't try and do it all day, every day. For those of you who haven't been sitting down, punching out thousands of phone calls, and I don't necessarily recommend that. Choose your time carefully, plan for it. Take an hour a day when during that hour you are that new business rep. The other parts of the day you can be the account manager, etc., etc. Okay, so the next element is when you do, let's say you pick up the phone, you get to speak to that prospect that you've been really trying to get hold of for a long time. Well, what do you do then? Do you just sell hard? We're the best at this, we're really good at this, etc. I recommend that what you should do first is add value. What can you bring to their world that's going to help them? What can you give them that costs you nothing, excuse me, but they value highly? And I'm thinking about, for instance, I'm willing to bet that you've got an extensive network. You've got lots of people within your network who provide different products and services that don't compete with you, but would be of great value to your customers. So you can easily make a call, excuse me about the cough. You can easily make an initial contact to someone and say, hey, John, we haven't met before, but the reason I wanted to reach out is that I do a lot of work with Joe Soap Enterprises over there, and they specialize in accounting software. And I noticed that you were looking for that, and I wonder if I could join you, put you guys in touch. So if you become a facilitator, if you like, a networker in the truest sense of the word, and look inside your network rather than outside it, look inside your network and build those links, you become more valuable. You become a person of trust in the sense that if every time I contact you, I'm trying to sell you something, then you don't want to take my call. But if each time I'm making contact with you, I'm adding value, I'm bringing information, I'm giving you something you didn't expect, then perhaps there's a greater chance that you'll take that next call. Okay, so the next thing is, I'm thinking of this off the top of my head, is how many of you have an ideal prospect, right? Now, and I'm not talking about a business, I'm talking about the actual buyer. So how many of you actually sat down and said, well, my typical customer is 35 to 40 years old, predominantly probably about 70% male, 30% female, work in a marketing and sales role at a management or director's level, have 2 kids, live in the northern suburbs, and have an income of this. So begin to think about your potential customers in a much more three-dimensional way, as opposed to their straight up business card title. And the business card's a great way to rethink about the 3 levels of customer engagement that you need to get through before they can buy from you. And what I mean by that is, if you start thinking about the emotional, the rational, and the political elements that go into any purchase decision. So the emotional is the name, the person's name on the card, right? The rational is their job, so their procurement manager, and the political is then going to be the organization, XYZ Industries. So we need to be able to win across all 3 of those three of those levels: the political, the emotional, and the rational. Too often we will go into a pitch just pitching the rational. It makes sense. How many times, right, have you lost a deal? I have, right? Have you lost a deal when you know that you've got the best price? You know your product is better. You know that it's more suited for the client and their needs, and you lose the deal. You don't know why you lost the deal, but you just, hey, wow, what the hell? I thought it was those famous words, it's in the bag. You know, when you go and tell your boss, oh, it's in the bag, but you can almost guarantee that as soon as you tell them that it's in the bag, that it's straight out of the bag. So this idea of just purely winning a deal on an irrational level, and don't get me wrong, a lot of organizations have set up procurement departments specifically to keep your pitch and your sales efforts in a rational box. But what's going to win the deal, what's going to get you across the line, is going to be that emotional understanding. So your ability to engage with the person on the other side. Now, hey, you're not going to pick up the phone and be their best pal. It doesn't work that way. Sales is not, particularly B2B, mid to enterprise level sales is not instant soup. You know, you can't just add, boiling water, stir 3 times, and bingo, it works that way. It requires a consistent and concerted, intelligent effort. So think about this. It takes 5 meaningful brand interactions. And when I say a brand interaction, that's you. You are the brand, okay? When I interact with a company, I'm interacting with you. And so for all intents and purposes, you are the representative of that brand, and that's who I trust, that's who I engage with. So if that's missing, it's not going to happen. So I need to do that 4 to 5 times before I can make a buying decision. Before I can make a buying decision. So think about that from a prospecting point of view. If your universe of prospective clients is, let's say, 1,000 companies. Now, 1,000 companies doesn't seem like a lot, but let's just, for argument's sake, say it's 1,000. Within each organization, let's say there are 3 people that you need to build a relationship with. Okay, so that's 3,000 human beings that you need to engage with at a not a deep level, but certainly at a trustworthy level. So 3,000 people, and we need to interact with them 5 times before. Now we've got 15,000 separate pieces of marketing activity. Wow, it just goes, hey, it's a lot easier just to ring people up and say, hey, do you want to buy? And they go, yes, and I'll send you an invoice, you send me cash, but it doesn't work that way. We need to understand our sales pipeline, that a pipeline actually is broken down and has obstacles and hurdles in it, and be realistic. And also, here's something which I think that the sales profession have sort of not necessarily dropped the ball, but haven't held on to it as tightly as they could over the past 10 or so years. And that is responsibility for ownership of the customer, the future customer. Now, marketing, I've done a great job in taking ownership of that, but really at the end of the day, it's our responsibility. The future customer is our responsibility. And when it comes to dealing and negotiating with senior management, that's what we should be doing. That's the space where we should be championing their cause, where we should be representing and negotiating internally with those functions. Okay, next thing, okay, I want to talk about is that you need to get good at negotiating, okay? Too many people, particularly in Australia, I have to say, just don't negotiate. Now, do you remember, but that is apart from the tradesmen. For those of you who I've worked with in the past, know that one of my favorite anecdotes is when I first came into Australia, I had a plumbing problem, and I had a plumber looking under the sink. And plumbers or tradespeople are great at this. The first thing they do when they open the cupboard and they look in is what they do, the flinch. They do, ooh, yeah. Now, what happens when a supplier flinches to you? Immediately, for me, I'm thinking, wow, this is going to cost me twice as much, 3 times as much. Now, see, what happens there is that they get me to manage my own price expectations without saying a word, without doing anything, etc. And now that's a learned technique. So we all need to get better at learning how to negotiate. And with bigger deals, it's exactly the same, okay? We need to not accept the first offer that's made. We need to encourage our customers, our potential customers, to negotiate. We need to learn those skills. Okay, there's plenty of material out there. There's no shortage of material, by the way. If you go into any bookstore or look online, I've got, there's hundreds of tips in this. There's thousands of tips online. I've got material coming out of my ears on any of my websites. You can go there and download all this. What is missing is the activity after it. Like, lots of people know how to do it. Very few people take action. Now, one of the things that a lot of salespeople think is, well, yeah, I know it, but I don't really feel comfortable about doing it. The winnings go to the people who take action, who do things, okay, right? And as salespeople, look, let's face it, people talk about risk in business. Salespeople take the greatest amount of risk in any business, okay? Salespeople take financial risk, okay? A large part of your salary is tied to your performance. They take emotional risk. It's stressful, right? Getting rejected every day. Sometimes they take physical risk by going out and knocking on doors and walking out in the streets or going down door to door in the wrong part of town. Okay, so it's a tough job. So if we're going to take that risk on board, if we're going to do that, we need to own it, right? We need to say, well, okay, we deserve to be the leaders in our business because we are the people who are going to lead business out of this. Well, we are the champions for the future, not only here in Australia, but around the world. Right now, around the world needs more salespeople who can actually sell and get out there and do it. Okay, Isaac, I could go on for another 45 minutes, but I've noticed I've been rabbiting on for 25 minutes and I was only supposed to have 10. Do you want to open it up to a few questions or see if anybody's got any pertinent points?
Yeah, good shout. And as much as I'd like to keep it going for another 45, I'm trying to slim it down to the 10-minute tip section. So I've got a couple of questions, but if somebody else has some questions, feel free to chime in. I have muted pretty much everybody, so you need to unmute yourself. Got a question.
So my microphone's on, I think.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, I'm good. So fire away.
Perhaps I can chime in there, Kieran. Alex Milford here, and it's been many years since you and I last caught up. Back in the days when I was at Translogics in Melbourne,
wow,
many years ago. So there you go.
Yeah.
Can I say, first off, I have your book. It's sitting on my bookshelf. I haven't looked at it, and I apologise for that for a little while. And I'm just thought I'm going to go do that now.
Yeah.
And as I'm going through this, and I'm writing down builder habits, 10 before 10. You forgot to mention 5 after 5, and I do remember there was a thing called the Tower of Power.
The Tower of Power, yes.
The Tower of Power. I don't know whether that was something you just came up with on the fly one day. I have used that in multiple businesses. It's been set on my desk. I have no idea where it's got to now. I think I may have
I'll send you another one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Send me a note to remind me.
I'll flick you a link. I liked what you said about ownership of the future of the customer, 5 meaningful brand interactions.
Yep.
Just yesterday, I wrote to a prospect. I'm working for a software company that sells warehousing software, and I've outlined 4 steps to get to the point where he can make a decision. And as I'm writing this 5 meaningful brand interactions, I thought that's exactly what that is.
Yeah.
So this stuff really works, and all of us on the call today have had an interaction with Kieran over the time through some sales training or some other interaction. But what I can say is that every year, when I was with Translogics, Kieran would come along. Every year he would reel out the same stuff, and I would just tell it all again. But you know what? Every year I'd learn something new. So I just needed today. I think I didn't realise it was on today until 15 minutes ago. I needed today just to reaffirm what I'm doing now, and I can totally align with everything you just said. So
thanks, buddy. That sounds like I owe you a bottle of wine or something for that.
No, whiskey.
Send me that note. Okay.
I will do.
Oh, Isaac, any more questions?
That's awesome. Mate, look, I've got one actually. So a lot of the customers that I work with have these large sales teams, 15, 25, whatever people and managers managing them, and they've got all these extreme targets, $1 million, $2 million. And the issue of that 10 before 10 or 5 after 5, it's just a mental change of how do I pick up the phone? How do you actually get the salespeople to pick up the phone, especially in a sensitive market like COVID? But even without COVID, it's always with this economy, there's always an excuse, right? So how do you motivate a team to actually go out and pick up the phone?
Okay, I'll tell you how I did it, because believe it or not, I don't like making cold calls. I never have, never did. However, I understood the importance of it. And the way I did it, and this is a long time ago, this will make me sound almost as old as I really am. But way back when, and I was working for John Fairfax then, and this has got to be 17 plus years ago. The invention of the mobile phone, the invention of the mobile phone, and it really was that. You know, you've got one of these big sort of Motorola jobs in your car. But I love that because what it allowed me to do was to make cold calls, and I would do them on a 5x10 index cards, like, you know, like these things. Yeah. So you write down, you get 5 or 10 numbers or people that you wanted to reach the next day. I'd put them in my car the night before, say for Tuesday morning. I'd put them in there on the Monday night, and I would make my 10 calls in the car on the way to work. Then it would take me about, say, 45, 50 minutes to drive into work. I could easily do it. I would also be making the calls. This will sound sort of counterintuitive. I'd be making them at 6 a.m., right? So I'm making cold calls to business owners and large corporates at 6 a.m. And guess what? 99 times out of 100, I'm just getting voicemail, which is great. That's what I want. I actually wanted voicemail because voicemail is a fantastic tool if you use it in the right way for people to call you back from. Rather than, most people look at voicemail as what I call voice jail, right? It's you make a call, it's oh god, it's voicemail again, and they do the 10-year-old with the new bicycle pitch. You know, hi, it's Kieran here. I'm calling you from we're really excited, and I'd love to show you how we did this. Yeah, that's it. That's not the right way to use voicemail. Use voicemail. The purpose of voicemail is not to sell. The purpose of voicemail is for them to call you back. Okay. So in my book, there's lots of tips about hanging up halfway through the phone call, of interrupting this, of sounding like a sergeant, sounding much more authoritarian than you want to be. And then when they call you back, you can deal with it later. But what I used to do, so I'd make those 10 calls. Now, the good thing is if anybody answered the phone, by the way, that early in the morning, they either owned the business or they wanted to own the business. So great. But I fully expected just to speak to a machine. And then I'd leave those messages. And the great thing was I would be busy during the day doing other stuff. And the phone would ring. I'd pick it up and it would be like, oh, yeah, it's John here. You called earlier. You're going, oh, my God, John, I'm not... calm down. All you do is say, hey, John, look, thanks for calling. Can you just hold for a second? And you use that magic button on the phone that says hold. You go through your cards and there's the card, or in your CRM, there's John, there are your 10 calls. Oh, John, look, thanks for calling me back. Look, the reason why I was, and then off you go. Your prospects call you. How good's that? Anyway, but it's still about the habit of being the start. We are the catalyst. Salespeople are the catalyst in any business, right? We're the yeast in the bread. We're the things that make things happen, right? And that's our job. That's our only job. Okay, Isaac?
Love it. Love it. Wake up at 6 in the morning and give someone a call. I love that.
I'm expecting to get a lot of phone calls tomorrow morning at about 6 o'clock.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. And the timing's excellent. It's 30 on the dot. So, look, we have recorded the session, and we'll be following up with the folks who couldn't make it. Yep. Because I'm going to try to slice and dice this up and send it out. Again, we've got another one of these in a couple of weeks. And, Kieran, I'd love to see you on another 10-minute tip session, albeit
sure. I've got plenty of them. One of the things I would say to everyone is that if you go to either of my websites, you either go to bettercallkieran.com or you go to Strikeforce Sales, and I'm sure, Isaac, you'll send them links to this. There's loads and loads of material which you can download. It's free. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to send in any details. You can just download it anonymously. And there's tons of stuff. Like I said earlier, there's no problem with stuff. There's loads of content. The difference is what you do tomorrow morning at either 6 a.m. or 9 a.m., whatever time you choose, is doing it. Exclude all other things and just focus on that new business development.
Fantastic, Kieran. Thank you so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Hope to hear from you all soon.